Hi there, and welcome to another interview. Today, got the fabulous Jonny with me, and I'm going to ask Jonny the question I ask absolutely everybody. Hey, Jonny, why did you become carnivore?
Hi, Stephen. Yeah, very good question. I suppose, like many of your viewers have been on, I was on a bit of a journey, really just to find some optimal health. So growing up, I had migraines. I seem to remember always having migraines as a kid and as a teenager, and my parents couldn't figure it out, and we went to GPs. We couldn't really figure out what it was. And I remember some people saying, or the doctor in particular saying, "Oh, maybe you're just eating too much chocolate, too many sweets, too much bad food." And I don't think I ate that much actually. I don't think I ate more bad food than the average kid. But that continued into my late teens and early 20s, and I'd just be popping Nurofen all the time, ibuprofen. And I just thought it was kind of normal. And then as I got into my 30s, so I had no major health issues other than migraines, but they were really quite bad, and it always used to get me down. Then into my 30s, on top of the migraines, I always felt I was getting very lethargic and tired. And I just thought to myself, I feel like an old man on the inside. I wasn't overweight, had no joint issues per se. I hadn't twisted a leg or nothing like that. It was just that I go to bed at night and like just tired and achy. And I wake up in the morning tired and achy. And I'm like, I should be in my prime. I'm 30. I was like, 25, 30. And so then I came across like intermittent fasting, and I came across gluten-free pathways, which did help, to be fair. It reduced the frequency of the migraines. I was still getting them, but I'd get a lot fewer of them. And the body aches improved a bit. But, really it just it wasn't optimal. And as time went on, I did what most people do, which is I just invested heavily in the fruit and veg mantra and almost went vegan and very much sort of plant-based, thinking, that is the orthodox. You've got to get all your vitamins from fruit and veg. So went down that rabbit hole, telling Dave Mack on his channel how I'd make these ridiculous smoothies with all the conceivable superfoods you could think of, all in there, blended up with lots of fruits. I'd even put like spinach in there. I think I was putting kale in there at one point because no one likes kale, but if you blend it up, you can just about knock it back. And all that to no benefit. I did not see a benefit. The intermittent fasting and the gluten-free did help the energy levels a little bit, but it wasn't until I was on YouTube one day and I came across Dr. Anthony Chaffee. Basically, had like his shirt off, with his muscles out, and he was like, "Listen, guys, fat does not make you fat. I haven't eaten a carb in 5 years. I was a pro rugby player and whatever. Like, fat does not make you fat." And I was like, oh, crikey, what was that? I just saw, because it was only like a 6-second clip, like a YouTube short. And I thought to myself, but you need your macros, you need your carbs for energy and your healthy fats and your proteins. That's all I always understood from very high level health and fitness. And obviously I was thinking, well, but you need fiber and you need vitamin C and all blah, blah, blah. But for some reason, I was like, no, I'm going to give this a go, because I become a bit, what's the word, sort of distrusting of the establishment. Various institutions, should we say, be it political, economic, whatever. You could borderline call me a conspiracy theorist at this point, but I was willing to believe that no, the medical establishment and the pharmaceutical, the big food industry, the complex, I don't think they do have our best interests at heart. And I'm preaching to the choir here, and people are probably listening. But for me at the time, this was still quite shocking. But yeah, I was prepared to give it a go. And so I did, and I remember the very week I did it. I mean, it's been roughly a year, just over a year now. And I remember the weekend I did it, and within days, a couple of days, I just felt fantastic, better than I'd ever felt. I literally felt like 10 years younger. I was bursting with energy, all the muscle aches and pains gone overnight. I just couldn't believe it. And I had this fantastic mental clarity as well, that no longer, because one of the other things I had was a bit of brain fog into my 30s. That just disappeared too. And I was like, this is absolutely incredible. And it wasn't just a wild dive into the deep end. I had also, once I'd seen that Dr. Anthony Chaffee video, I'd done a bit more research. I'd listened to people like Professor Bart Kay on the Jesse Chappus Ultimate Health podcast, which I'd been listening to for years, listening to all the vegan and plant-based stuff, as was then advocated over the course of the last 10 years. And I sort of saw the lectures that Chafee had given on, like plants are trying to kill you. And I learned about the toxins in those and also all the nonsense around the nutritional guidance and Ansel Keys and, the whole thing. But I put my money where my mouth was. I gave it a go and I felt fantastic. After a few days, I did start to get that carnivore flu because I did jump into it overnight, and that was probably my own fault. I should have staggered my way in. So I got the flu for a week or two. So I didn't felt a bit groggy then, but then got through the other side of it and I felt fantastic again. So I've been eating this way ever since. And my wife always tells me, I'm sure you'll temper it down. I'm sure you'll go kind of keto. I'm sure you'll incorporate some carbs here and there as you get bored of meat. But honestly, I had 3 ribeyes today, like little ones I had at Tesco. So yeah, when I say 3 ribeyes, usually one ribeye is like a huge thing. But today I had 3 little ones, and I'll probably be having another one later because they're like 150-gram packets. But I have literally ribeye most days, and I never get bored of the taste. Tastes sensational. I love it, and I just feel great. So no, I don't think I'll be changing anytime soon, in all honesty. And I'm glad I discovered it.
Yeah, I'm glad you discovered it as well. So what happened to the migraines? When was the last time you had them?
I couldn't even tell you. It literally disappeared as well. Yeah, once I went gluten free and I did some intermittent fasting, and I was still getting them maybe one a week, one a fortnight, bad ones as well. And since carnivore for a year now, literally couldn't tell you when I last had a migraine. It's great.
Yeah,
You know,
that's great. So you mentioned your wife there. So when you first decided to go carnivore, what was your wife's reaction? Did she think you're crazy? And what about other people, like your family and friends and stuff?
Yeah, so I watched a few podcasts and YouTube videos of the likes of yourself and others. And then I went to the missus and I was like, what they're telling us is a load of nonsense. You know, well, I just laid it all out for her, and she was like, "Well, yeah, it does sound like you're onto something there, and that is believable." And she's very much a realist. She's not kidding herself. She knows the whole food industry and farming industry is all driven by money at the end of the day, and they can make higher margins basically from selling you carbs, keeping you addicted, keeping you sick, keeping you medicated. Yeah, she always wasn't surprised. She was just like, yeah, that sounds about right. And then, and once you want to go into the ancestral way of eating that we've been eating this way for 3 million years, the penny sort of drops, doesn't it? And I sort of said to myself, how did I believe it was any other way? How could it be any other way? So she gave it the go ahead, and she's had a go at carnivore as well. The longest she's done it for is about a month. She's like slipped off it. I think she's still hooked on the carbs a little bit, like we all were. Yeah. Or my son just walked into the room. James, you're supposed to be in bed. You head off to bed, my little one. Okay. Sorry about this, Stephen. My
That's right.
missus is away on a work trip. Okay.
Do you need
Okay,
to?
I will come and give you some medicine later, okay? Your ears hurting? Okay, I will okay, okay. I will come and see you later, okay? I'll come soon. Love you, James.
Do you need to
Sorry
stop?
about
I
that.
mean, if
I,
your child is poorly.
he says he's got a bit of an earache. I think he just doesn't I think he's making that up a little bit. If he comes back, maybe we'll
Well, I
I've
can
just put them to
edit
bed and
that
I
bit.
was like, guys, yeah, sorry about that. Um
Sorry, that's okay. No worries.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I think he's just making excuses to get out of bed. They always
Well, he
do
wants a
this.
little
I've
bit
got
of
3.
attention. Yeah,
Yeah,
over
I think
three.
that's what it is. Yeah, set of
How old is
twins.
he?
He's 5. Him and his
Ah,
sister are
well, come
twins.
on. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got to have attention at 5. Yeah.
exactly. And the eldest is 7. But yeah, so yeah, the wife was fully on board, and she's had to go herself, and she's seen some benefits within the first few weeks. But I wish I could convince her to just stick at it a bit longer, because then she'll really build up all those ketones and really get off the carb train. I really do think it's an addiction that we're all hooked on. As long as you still got a bit of sugar in the brain and well,
Yeah,
not in
I
the
think.
brain, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah, I
she
know.
needs to break free fully, and then she will never go back. I know if I'd have stopped after a month or slipped off, I'd have struggled too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we might keep the thing about the children in because it's a nice
Okay.
link back to
Yeah.
when you. I mean, you said when you were very young, you'd get
Mm.
migraines nearly every day. So you so you have twins and your son that just came in with the earache.
Yeah.
Are they eating more meat than, say, the average child and avoiding things like Coca-Cola and all that sort of stuff?
So they still have some carbs and they still have some treats. I feel it's too soon to wean them off that. We try not to go overboard, but managing a house of 3 kids does require a little give and take and a little carrot and stick. But yes, they do eat more meat than the average kid out there, definitely. What I do is when they come home from school, I give them a meat treat. It could be anything, chicken, bacon, and ideally is up some ground beef or something easy, or literally just some of my ribeyes sometimes. Penny, one of the 3, loves a good ribeye, so that's great. And they do like it. And then in every meal they have, there's a good amount of meat. I make sure of that. So they're having probably a bit more than the average. They'll never go a day without meat. There's always got to be some meat on the table, at least for 2 out of the 3 meals.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You're saying you sounded like you're a conspiracy theorist, but Richard Horton, who's the editor-in-chief of The Lancet, even he has said that he feels the scientific literature, at least half of it, he believes, is untrue. Now, he's lost all his faith in scientific literature, and he is editor-in-chief of The Lancet, where there's loads and loads of studies. I mean, I saw actually, they refer to each other, these studies. So I saw one that in the abstract mentioned, wow, there's a 62% risk, a greater risk of getting type 2 diabetes when there's high levels of iron. But then when you go and look at the actual study, it's not 62%, which is relative risk. The difference was 3 in 1,000 people reported type 2 diabetes compared to 5 in 1,000. So there's your sort of 60%, the difference. 2 is the difference between 3 and 5. So 2 is 60% of 3. And it's the way they word everything, and you just lose all your faith in that. So I think,
absolutely.
Losing the migraines is a big deal, and getting rid of brain fog. But I think you also mentioned, a bit more energy and body composition improvements.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier, I was feeling tired all the time, felt like an old man, and then I was bursting with energy on this so-called diet. So that's been huge for me, and we live quite busy lives. My wife and I have got full-time jobs, and we've got the 3 kids. We've got no family members around sort of help babysit or pick up the kids from school or anything like that. And I'm also like a reservist in the Navy as well. So, and my wife's away, as she is today, on work trips. So we live quite flat out lives, and we couldn't do it if we felt suboptimal. And I feel optimal on this diet, absolutely. It gives me tons of energy, and I can run around after the kids and be where I need to be and do what I need to do. So it's been a huge game changer, and I'm just really grateful.
So what's the body composition bit of your improvement? Did you used to have a bit of a belly fat, or?
Just like I've never been particularly big. I'm like 70 or 80 kilos around there, 6 foot. So I'm not sort of an average build, maybe even a bit on the skinny side. But I wasn't like as lean as I could have been, and this diet has leaned me out a bit more, which is great. And that's always nice, isn't it? Yes. So literally everything's improved. Yeah, and the brain fog as well went away. I feel much sharper at work doing stuff, and I feel a lot calmer as well. I used to be a bit. One big thing actually, which it might be related to this, was I had an irregular heartbeat my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a gallop, and I was asymptomatic, or so it seemed. And I got tested, and not least for the Navy, I got rigorously tested for that. And they said, no, you're absolutely fine. You can push yourself to the absolute max. And then after Carnivore, it's gone. Like it's just a regular heartbeat now. And my dad, who's a doctor, has sort of attested to that. So that's great. I don't know. Maybe you've got some insights on that, but maybe that's why the blood flow's pumping around better. The hemoglobin, getting more oxygen to the cells. Is that one part of the reason?
Yes, well, you're doing a little teaser for an interview we're doing on your channel, which we're going to go through your bloods, actually. So let's keep our powder dry on that. Okay. I think one of the things you snuck in there, that your dad is a doctor. Now, surely the mainstream hating this way of eating. Yeah. What was your dad, who was a doctor? Is he a medical doctor?
Yeah, he's retired now. He was an ears, nose and throat surgeon. ENT surgeon. He lives out in France. I saw him last week actually, and every time I see him, we have this massive debate about my diet. And he's just not on board. So that leads to some interesting discussions. So every time I see him, I chip away at him and I'm like, listen, this guy, Ansel Keys, he had this whole theory predicated on certain cherry-picked countries where he suggested cholesterol caused heart disease, and it's basically not true. There's a lot of fraud here. And I say, I just go over the same points. I say what I think is the most compelling point, which is, the isotopes, the fossils, the data clearly show we've eaten this way as a human species for best part of 3 million years. Before agriculture came along 13,000 years ago, we ate just meat, or 80% meat, with the fat associated with it. So we're consuming tons of cholesterol. How can you explain to me that this isn't sustainable long term if we've done it for 3 million years and we've evolved on it? And the definition of the diet which is best suited to us is that which we have eaten the longest, surely. That's just, and I say that over and over again. I say we've survived ice ages, but like you said, they're entrenched in these views and their upbringing and their education, and I don't think you can see through the woods. He's not prepared to put into question the most basic and fundamental principles that he studied as a doctor. Not that they really study much nutrition, because I asked him about that as well. I said, well, how much training do you really get on diet and food? And admittedly, he said, like, not much. And I think that shows, they prescribe, I should say, lots of pills. And he did fantastic, very complex surgery throughout his career, which is fantastic. But when it comes to nutrition and the power of nutrition, it's just a great gaping hole, isn't there? So yeah, those are always interesting debates. I tried to tell him. I mean, I heard the other day that France was, he's French. My mum is English, my dad's French. But I told him, listen, France, this country you're in, has the highest consumption of cholesterol in Europe. That's what I read somewhere not too long ago. I heard it quoted, perhaps owing to the cheese that they eat, and and it's also the country with the least amount of heart disease. So can you explain that, Dad? And he can't. Now that's, maybe a little bit anecdotal. It's not hugely scientific, but you would expect a country that has the highest rates of cholesterol in Europe to not at least be the country with the least amount of heart disease in Europe. Surely there would be some correlation that points,
Yeah, and I think what you're saying, I mean, that is actually well known, and it has been pointed out. And of course, the mainstream came up with what they called the French paradox. Well, it must be something else, because they couldn't actually look at the data and go, well, maybe they're onto something here. So this is where we got into the red wine must be actually the thing that's heart healthy. I don't know if you remember that. I remember that.
I don't know.
All right. Okay. And it was, we're doing absolutely everything to blame other things, or when I say blame, include other things to be the mitigating factor. Well, yes, it's not the fact that there's a paradox. It's because the French also do this and they also do that. But as you know, I mean, that's like you mentioned Ansel Keys and his 7-country study, which was in fact 22 and
22.
I just cherry pick the data, and it's very frustrating. But I think, being a deaf person, I spent a lot of time in the ear, nose and throat department, and I allegedly would never get my hearing back. So I've been deaf since I was 23. I'm now 60. And it's only in the last, 3-4 years where I've been carnivore that when I go to my audiologist, that my hearing has slightly improved. Well, it's the only thing I'm very boring. The only thing that's changed is my diet, and that's carnivore. And I know factually that it's improved because those readings say it, and also I have an app for my hearing aids. And my hearing aid volume, I've had to bring down since I've been carnivore.
Yeah.
So I am hearing better, and that's the only change. So you could say that to your dad, actually. I've got somebody that used to go to the ENT every week or every month or every year, and have checks. You mentioned Dave Mack, and you were on his channel, and I think that's been well watched. And Dave is brilliant, the zero carb guy, zero carb life. On there, you mentioned you had some cravings, and they've gone as well. So could you just, for viewers who haven't seen that interview, just talk about that briefly?
Yeah, well, I think the cravings really pretty much disappeared after the first couple of weeks. Once I transitioned on, I just lost all. And I was a bit of a sugar addict, in all honesty. I didn't eat copious amounts, but I would definitely need a little bit of sugar, a little chocolate, a little bit of something sweet after almost every meal, be it breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and then throughout the day as well. It seemed I couldn't get over it. And yeah, I remember feeling really liberated once I transitioned onto this diet, whereby my kids eat plenty of sweets. There's sweets around the house, but I never have the urge, and I think that's fascinating. I think they really do. These engineers who are making our foods highly palatable, literally changing the way our hormones act and respond to certain tastes. And I think it's an addiction, and I'm really pleased to be off that. I didn't like feeling like I had to always hold back or not eat the whole bag of chocolate Milky Buttons, or just I didn't like that. I don't think it's natural. And I said to Dave that in the wild, or take any species for that matter, everybody eats to satiety, and they're comfortably full at the end of it, and they stop, and they're not having to hold back. They're not having to manipulate their diet, not having to intermittent fast, not having to exercise to keep it off. And it's just you're full because your body's got the nutrients it needs, and it tells you that your hunger signals are satisfied, and that's that. And I think that's nature's way. I think just Mother Nature is genius, and we just need to get out of its way and let it do what it does best, and feed yourself what you need, what your body is designed, your species is designed to eat, and then everything takes care of itself from there, doesn't it?
So simple, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing I often say with the bloods as well, because the normative ranges are based on human beings that eat 45 to 65% carbohydrates. The normal ranges on the bloods don't tend to actually apply to us because our physiology is a bit different. And also, of course, who gets their bloods done? It's not healthy people. It's mainly from people that aren't particularly healthy. They go and get their bloods. That's where the data is coming from. Huge amounts of data from sick people that are eating loads of carbs, and that's where we get our normal ranges from, not our optimal ranges. So I think when we do meet up, we'll go over your bloods, and we'll talk about that sort of thing. But one of the other things I say is, in our physiology, it is important what we eat. And I wouldn't look at a lion, for instance, and feed the lion grass and then take their bloods to see what happened to them, because that wouldn't be right. You couldn't use their blood ranges as this lion's been on grass for the last month, this is going to be optimal. And the same as you couldn't get a cow and feed it steak and do their blood, because that wouldn't work either. And it's so obvious really that we should be looking at carnivore as a different physiology, and our blood should be slightly different because we need less vitamin C, for instance. We're going to have less T3 needed, so many other things that are needed. So when we get onto your channel and go for your bloods, I think that's going to be really exciting. But it's great that you've got more energy and your body composition's improved, you've less cravings, migraines have gone, and it's only a year. And in fact, most of what you said, it was in the first few weeks where actually that happened. I think
that's unbelievable.
You mentioned the ribeyes. Do you eat other things? Do you eat eggs and poultry, seafood, that sort of stuff?
I don't really know. I had a little dabble with cheese and dairy, and and milk, and I don't feel like I really tolerated that too well. I feel like I got a bit of bloating from the milk in particular, and I tried raw milk as well, and sort of the hard cheeses and the blue cheeses as well. So now I've stayed away from those. Now in terms of fish, on occasion I might have some fish, but it's quite rare as well. I guess I'm just a sucker for ribeyes. So predominantly I eat ribeyes. Very spoiled. I eat ribeyes, sirloin steaks, like New York strip steaks, if any Americans watching this, beef short ribs. Those are quite good. They're quite fatty, because I go to my Costco, you see they have those 3 options at good prices. I buy big sort of 6 kilos at a time. And then the other thing I eat is sort of mincemeat, like beef burgers, which I actually get the mince from like an Irish farm, which is all grass fed. It's fantastic, and it's 30% fat. That's what I like about it. So I just get 10 kilos of that at a time, and then I pack it into like a burger, a huge burger. It's like this, like that big. It's massive. It's like almost raw in the middle, even after 20 minutes in the air fryer. But it's great. It's got a good protein to fat ratio, and basically I just eat those 4 or 5 foods, and I feel, and occasionally a bit of chicken, but not really much else.
And what do you drink?
Just water.
Just water. Yeah.
Just water.
Have you
Occasionally a cup of tea, like
Okay.
if I'm at an event or something or a dinner, I'll have a cup of tea.
And have you ever drunk other stuff, in the past before Carnivore?
Yeah, I mean, I was a coffee drinker.
Mhm.
I think that did terrible things to me. I think it does terrible things to all of us. In fact, I gave up coffee a month before going carnivore, and already saw some good improvements. But it was like nothing next to going carnivore. So I was still eating a rubbish diet. I mean, I say rubbish. I was eating what is considered to be a healthy-ish diet. I wasn't actually taking the mick. But yeah, I gave up the coffee. Before that, I would drink a bit of Coca-Cola, a bit of juice, orange juice in the morning, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so very
But
similar
it's
to
just
me.
water now. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to think I was eating healthy, porridge oats,
Yeah.
skim milk,
Yeah.
fruit, veg, freshly squeezed orange juice.
Yeah.
Didn't have any red meat, avoided the fat, and I just ended up
Yeah.
fat and sick and pre-diabetic, and the coronary artery calcium scan of 639. So, yeah, I know
There you
where you're
go.
coming from. Jonny, that was great. What I'll do in the description, I'll put a link to your channel, and then after this is finished, we'll hook up a time to come on and go through your bloods, and hopefully people enjoy this interview and then go over to your channel and see what we produce over there. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks a lot, Stephen. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Great.